All right, kiddos. This is just a review for those of you who are a little bit behind or who are absent. Today's lesson is 5.2. It's adding integers with different signs. And the essential question, this is what we need to be able to do by the end of the lesson. How do you add integers with different signs? Now, remember, an integer is any whole number, positive, negative, or zero. And so we're going to add integers that have different signs. So we're going to add positive integers and negative integers. So the first couple of things we're going to learn are modeling. So how do we see it? How do we visualize it? And then we'll look at the pencil to paper method, basically the algorithm or the step-by-step procedures for how to do this. So let's start with the number line first. Okay, adding on a number line. So to find the sum of integers with the same sign, which is what we did for the last lesson, such as 3 plus 2, you can start at 3 and move it absolute value of 2, which means of 2 spots. And we're going to move it in the positive direction, and that's because it's a positive 2. So we start with the first add-in. The first add-in is 3. And we're going to move it 2 spots in the positive direction. So 1, 2, and there's our answer, 5. Okay. Now, here's how we do it with the negative numbers. So we start at 3. So I'll find 3 on the number line, and we're going to move it 2 spots, but now we're going to move it in the negative direction. The negative direction is to the left here. So 1, 2, put my little arrow there, and here's my answer. So 3 plus a negative 2 gives us 1. All right, so here are 3 practice problems, models A, B, and C. Why don't you pause the video, try them out, and then you can press play. Okay, so start at 4, move it 3 in the negative direction, and so 4 plus a negative 3, so 4 plus negative 3 is 1. Okay, so now with this model we're going to start at negative 7, and we're going to move it 5, but we're going to move it 5 units in the positive direction. That's a positive number, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, end up on negative 2. So we start at negative 7, move it 5 units to the right, or in the positive direction. And negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. Okay. Now, with C, we're going to model 6 plus negative 6. So we start at 6, that's our first add-in. And we're going to move it 6 units, but in the negative direction. So we're going to go to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Circle it. There's our answer. Okay, so we start at 6, move to the left. So we're going to move 6 units to the left, or in the negative direction. 6 plus negative 6 is 0. Alright, now we're going to make a prediction. Predict the sum of negative 2 plus 2, explain your prediction, and check it using the number line. Okay, so we're going to start at negative 2. We're going to move it 2 spots in the positive direction. 1, 2. Okay, that gives us 0. So explain your prediction. So if I start at negative 2, but I move it 2 steps in the positive direction, I'm just going right back to 0. So here it is right here on the number line. All right. So modeling sums of integers with different signs. So this is the second form of modeling that we're going to be doing. We're using the counters in this example. If this had been in color, this would be yellow and would be a positive, and this would be red and would be a negative. Okay, so you can use colored counters to model adding integers with different signs. When you add a positive integer, that's the yellow counter, a negative integer, that's the red counter, and they actually look like this. Those are the counters. The result is 0. So when you add a positive and negative, the result is a 0. So we call that a 0 pair. Pair because there's 2 of them, and 0 because when you add them together, they equal 0. So that's an example of a 0 pair. Okay. So the directions say model and find each sum using counters. Part A is modeling for you. For Part B, follow the steps to model and find the sum using your counters. Okay, so you won't have the models at home, but here's what you would do. I've got a positive 3, so I got 3 counters. I'm going to add negative 2, so I got my negative 2 add in right here. So positive 3 plus negative 2. That's a 0 pair. That's a 0 pair. So I'm left over with 1 chip. It's yellow, which is positive. So I got positive 1 left over after I cancel out the 0 pairs. Okay, so what is left over when you remove the 0 pairs? 1 positive counter. All right, so find the sum of 3 plus negative 2. It's 1. So we're going to model negative 6 plus 3 now. So negative 6 to negative 6 plus 3. Okay, so I got a 0 pair there, 0 pair here, 0 pair here, 3 0 pairs that cancel each other out. I'm left with 3 red or negative chips. So we start with 6 negative counters to represent negative 6, and I'm going to add 3 positive counters to represent adding 3. I got my 0 pairs. What is left when you remove the 0 pairs? The 3 negative counters. So the sum of negative 6 plus 3 is going to be negative 3. So now we're going to make a prediction. Kyle adds a sum of 2 integers. He uses more negative red counters than positive yellow. So in this previous example is a good example. More negative counters than positive, more red than yellow. What do you predict about the sign of the sum? Well, if I pair up the 0 pairs, if I have more red, I will always have some red left over. So no matter what, it always has to be negative. Okay, so after removing...
You can't see.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Ms. Sorrells. After removing 0 pairs, there will always be negative counters left over. ... So always negative. Okay. Now if you need to pause that to get that copy down, that would be perfect. All right. The last page. So these are your turns. So pause the video, give these a whirl, and then press play real quick, and I'll show you the answers. Okay. So 5 plus negative 1. I've got the difference between the two is 4. The bigger number is positive. All right, bigger number here is negative, so my answer is going to be negative 1 plus the difference between 1 and 7 is 6. The bigger number here is negative, so my answer is going to be negative. The difference between 6 and 4 is 2. All right, different signs. That's bigger number, so the difference between the two is 1, so it's negative 1. All right. Here are your notes for yesterday's lesson and today's lesson, kind of condensed. Okay, this section right here explains how to add if you have the same sign, different signs, or the number and its opposite. And here are examples of both. Same positive numbers, combine them. Same negative numbers, you combine them and put the negative sign. All right, same opposite, positive and negative. The answer is the difference between the two numbers, with the bigger number being the sign. So in this case, negative 5 is bigger, so it's negative 2. In this case, negative 10 is bigger than 1, so the difference is 9. We put the negative sign because negative 10 is bigger. All right, and then in this case, both of them cancel each other out. All right. Just as a side note, the definition for these numbers right here and these numbers right here are right here. underneath. It's called the additive inverse. Additive inverse. And that's when you have a 4 and its opposite, which is -4. They always cancel each other out and make 0. We call this additive inverses. All right, so here's the example. When you find the sum of opposite numbers, what you do is you find the difference between the absolute values, so how far they are from 0. So in this case, 11 and 6, we find the difference between the two. The difference is 5, and then we add on the larger sign. So the larger sign of this one is negative, so we add on the negative to our answer, so it's -5. All right, so here's our turn. Pause the video, start it back up when you think you got it. All right, this one's a little bit tricky to find the difference, so I'm going to just work it out. In this case, we have to borrow. Zoom in a little bit so we can see. All right, we got to borrow. So we borrow 1 from the tens digit. And so the ones digit, we add 10 to it, 10 to 1. So 11 take away 3 is 8. 4 take away 2 is 2. So we got 28. The bigger sign is negative. Our answer is negative. All right, on 8, the bigger sign is negative. So our answer will be negative. And the difference between 18 and 10 is 8. On 9, they're additive inverses. So they're just the inverse of each other, so that will always equal 0. And on 10, the negative sign is on the number that's bigger. So the answer's got to be negative. And the difference between 26 and 25 is just 1. And there you have it. All right. Keep these. These are your notes. Use them to help you with your practice, with your K-checks, with your preparation. These are your notes, so take care of them.